Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Irving Fryar. I'm the host here at the Fryar Place, where the conversations are fire. I'm kind of tickled right now because my guests are waiting in the waiting room. And when we play the introduction, I can actually see them. They don't know I can see them, but I can see them. See, they're laughing now. They're in the waiting room. And everybody who sees the introduction, they can't help it. I see them moving, they start rocking. I was like, yeah. We have a great introduction. And hats off, shout out to Lou Rogers, Vision Audio Visual, who put that together. Thank you, Lou. Shout out to Alicia Way. Y'all come on in the room. Alicia Way put these dope overlays together. Y'all come on in the room. We have a great show lined up for you today. Listen, before we do that, I want to tell you all we got merch. Yes, we do. Right there for millions.com/Irving Fryar football. Check it. Bang. Oh, let me give the other one. Right here. Bang. There it is. There's the merch. Good God. I should have ironed that, huh? Iron that crease out of there. Merch. Yeah, we got merch. Go to Millions. Let me give it to you from the back, too. Let me stand up from the back. Right here. Bang. Merch. Yeah. We got merch at the Fryar Place. Y'all come on in the room. Yeah, we like that. Go to millions.com/Irving Fryar/Irving Fryar football. Every dollar that's spent on our merch, 50 cents on every dollar, is donated to the nonprofit organization A Need We Feed. A Need We Feed feeds over 1,000 people a week. Hot meals, veterans, the homeless, seniors. Yes, it's a worthwhile cause. So please go to millions.com/Irving Fryar football. Right hand corner. Tap on Irving Fryar. There's a drop down menu, shows you merchandise. Purchase your merch, yeah, and do your part in feeding the hungry. What's up, Rashida? How you doing? Thanks for being with us today. Waiting for the rest of y'all to come in. But I'm going to bring our guests in because we have a lot to talk about today. They both been on the show before, but we brought them both back so they could be on the show together at the same time because they're just a wealth of knowledge. I know both of these excellent people. We're going to bring them in. Here they are, Dr. Taunya Tinsley and Mr. Tim Massaquoi. What's up, you guys? Say hi.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I almost said good morning, but it's afternoon now.
Yeah, it is afternoon. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We got to, this is, as I was saying earlier when we were talking, hey, Mom, my mom is on, y'all, so y'all got to be nice. My mother's watching.
Hey, Mom.
I was saying earlier, this is appropriate because it's the Super Bowl weekend, but I have a Super Bowl group right here when it comes to mental health and mental health awareness. First, It's Taunya Tinsley. I'm going to read just a couple of things, Taunya. Okay, don't get embarrassed. It's what you did.
Okay.
So I mean, you deserve the accolades. I mean, she owns transition counseling service and life skills program, which includes a ministry called Love and Basketball. I like that. That's a movie too, right? Did you have to contact them about using that name?
Not because I had ministry, I was able to get it copyrighted.
Nice. She's a licensed professional counselor. Is it Augsburg College? Yeah, Augsburg, Minneapolis, Minnesota. She is in the athletic, and this is probably why the Love and Basketball tag. Right. She's in the Athletic Hall of Fame at Augsburg College in Minneapolis. She is a former college basketball star. Yes, sir. Currently is an associate professor at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. Awesome. Then we also have Mr. Tim Massaquoi. Now, not only is Tim accredited, he's a licensed professional counselor. He is the clinical director or a clinical director at the Ledipo Group. Got that right this time, Tim. I was messing that up last time. He's out of Allentown, PA. Yes. Former NFL player, played his college ball with the Michigan Wolverines. He was a two-time first team All Big Ten player. Yes. Got drafted in the seventh round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then went to the Miami Dolphins. Then he ended up with the Buffalo Bills at the end of his career. He is my personal counselor, y'all. You got to listen to this cat, because if he can deal with me, he can deal with anybody, because I'm difficult. What's up, Tim?
What's going on, Irving? How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm very excited, as you can tell, about the two of you being on the show together. Hey, Hope, how are you? My sister Hope is on too, y'all. So we Fryars have issues. So you're going to help. Richard Melton. And Richard, listen, I'm going to stop calling you Richard, because when we grew up, we didn't call you Richard. We call you Ricky. So I'm going to start calling you Ricky like I used to call you. That way, we can go back and keep our relationship the way it always was. So Richard, his name is Richard Melton, but we called him Ricky. Why we called him Ricky, I don't know, but we call him Ricky. So listen, we want to get right into this, y'all. We're living in some crazy times, and people are dealing with some crazy things. I mean, I posted yesterday that we're going to be talking about depression and suicide and COVID-19 and how that's affected families and individuals emotionally, psychologically, a whole lot. But before we start that, I want to say this and have you comment on this. Both of you, I know both of you, and both of you really genuinely love what you do. You really do. You're gifted, not only gifted for what you do and what you're doing, but you love what you do. And I think that's so important when anybody's trying to connect with a therapist, that they connect with someone that not only loves what they're doing, because I've talked to therapists in the past that really were just doing it, what it seemed to me, to get a paycheck. And they really weren't able to connect with the client. So how important is that? I mean, you guys take it, whoever wants to talk first. We can do the chivalry thing and lady, go whatever. Chivalry's not dead here. Chivalry's not dead. We can do the chivalry thing, and we can let Taunya go first, and then you can come on behind that, Tim, if you want to do that. We can do that for the rest of the show if you want. But talk about that when people are trying to make sure that they're getting the proper help, that they're connecting with someone who is actually going to help them.
Absolutely. And you are absolutely right. I am very passionate about what I do. It took some time for me to realize that counseling is where God was calling me, and to work with unique cultural groups, the athlete population, the African American Black community, and people of color. Also incorporating multicultural and social justice counseling competencies. So although God was calling me to this years prior to me going to school, it wasn't until I lost my brother suddenly and traumatically to gun violence in 2002 that led me to go to school for counseling. But before I did that, I really had to go through my own counseling process. I went through grief and loss, depression. And when I was seeking a counselor, it was important for me to have somebody understand the Black family, understand me as a cultural being, and really integrate the spiritual and Christian perspectives. And when I was in Pittsburgh, I couldn't find that one person. I had to piecemeal that together. And that's where God called me to say, that's where I'm calling you to do this, and also train others to meet these needs. And so I'm a true believer, the counselor as a person, the counselor as a professional. Who we are personally doesn't stop at the door. We have to be open to our own unfinished business that will help us to be more successful and effective with the clients we serve.
Wow. So helping others helps to help you.
Absolutely. I'm a believer that we're on a journey together.
Yes.
So not only am I there in the counseling session for my clients, they're also there for me.
Nice. Tim?
Yeah, Dr. Tinsley, just a little bit more, just from my perspective, the same thing. So my journey was after I got done playing, involuntarily, because
We're all
not everybody's not everybody,
involuntarily when we stop.
right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's NFL career ends like, Tom Brady or Ray Lewis, where you go out of the top. Some folks, you exit the game before you're ready to. And I was one of those people. And so I went through my own bout of depression, and I had to find my way into a therapist's office, Dr. Tina Scott here in Philadelphia. Did some amazing work with me, and just really helped me to process some things around just security and identity, and just really helped me on that path. And so through that work and through some previous work I did as a mentor for young kids, and just all those experiences really aligned me with my passion. The work as a therapist is, for me, it is very spiritual. It is very spiritual when you can walk alongside people who are going through things and just have the ability to be with them, guide a little bit, but really just watching folks just evolve and grow with something that was holding them back and watching them overcome that. It is an absolute pleasure and joy. I'm passionate about the work. We there's so much, Dr. Tinsley. I'm glad you're talking about recruiting and helping to grow the field with people of color, because there's not a lot of us. We need more help. We need more qualified, passionate clinicians to work with our community, because our community is at the point, after all this time, is finally at the point where we're ready and open to getting that support. And so we got to be ready to meet that need and be supportive, with just supporting our community and helping them with that journey that they're going to go on.
Wow, that's awesome. So I can tell we're not going to get through all these topics today, but I mean, we want to touch really well, they're all big. It's not like one is bigger than the other. They all have to do with our mental health, and that's if you're lacking in one area, that's going to have an impact on a different area. So it doesn't matter if you're strong here, if you're weak here, there's still an imbalance. So I was watching, and I talked to you about this briefly, Taunya, but I get up in the morning, have my little coffee, try to watch the news in the morning. And the other day, I think it was last week, turned the news on, and it was Chesley Chris. She had jumped 9 stories from a building in New York and committed suicide. Former Miss America, former Miss USA, had a show. She's a lawyer. She's an attorney, successful attorney, fighting for black rights, the rights for black people. Great career, great life. Looking on the outside, it's wonderful. Who wouldn't want to be this woman? Who wouldn't want to carry her position? Who wouldn't want to be as intelligent and good looking and as smart as she is? Who wouldn't? And she commits suicide. Let's talk about suicide, because it doesn't matter what's going on and what you have and the position you hold. If things aren't right mentally and psychologically and emotionally, man, we'll give up on life. We'll give up on life. And I can testify to that, because there was a time in my life early in my career where it didn't matter how much money I had. I was the most miserable person in the world, and took my car and ran it into a tree 60 miles an hour, trying to take my own life. So it doesn't matter. People think that if you get things and you have money and you have success and you have fame and you can drive a nice car and wear nice clothes, that that's the end all, the beat all. No, 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 no. More money, more problems. I think that's the song, isn't it? So talk about that a little bit. Taunya, we'll throw it to you first and then you come on behind it. And the next question, I'm going to go to you first, Tim.
Right. I think what you said is, and not only did we have that death by suicide, we also had a city official in Maryland that was publicized. We also had another public suicide just in the past 2 weeks. And I think it's important to understand dying by suicide, suicidal ideation, suicide is an equal opportunity issue. It's a global public health crisis. Right now, it's the fourth leading cause of death, especially in the age group of 15-year-olds to 29 years old. And we also have to understand that when somebody has suicidal ideations, they are getting to a place where they're just not hopeful and they are trying to just release the pain that they're feeling. And so it's oftentimes somebody who is hurting internally and that they are seeking relief. And the only relief that they are able to find is to die by suicide. And we have to be there to be able to talk about it. And talking about it doesn't put anything in anybody's mind. That's a myth. That's a stigma. We also have to understand that there are potential risk factors. And so this is a real, and we have death by suicides that are not even public, that every day there are death by suicides and suicidal ideations. And so this is a real public health issue that we need to be able to address, especially during this time of COVID and this pandemic. We are also experiencing a mental health pandemic and people not feeling hopeful, isolation, just sad and depressed, not engaging in those normal activities that they did prior to the pandemic. So we have to understand these different factors that contribute to somebody losing hope about the future.
Is there, and I'm going to throw this to you, Tim, if we suspect, if anyone suspects a loved one, a friend, a coworker that may be having these suicidal ideation, what do you call it? Suicidal
Ideation.
ideations. I'm sorry. Suicidal ideations. We didn't say that word much when you were training me for suicidal prevention. We didn't say ideations that much. But if you come across somebody or you know someone, Tim, that you may suspect, is there a certain way to approach it? I know one of the things is, they're looking to get away from the pain or to relieve the pain or to just eliminate the pain that they're experiencing in their life. And the only way for them to do that is to stop living. But don't we need to or try to give them a reason to live?
I wouldn't put the so much of the charge of the support system of giving that person the key to living at that point, right? And I say that because it's you've been there the whole time, right? So if you think about a person who was having suicidal ideation, it's like you mentioned earlier about the young lady who committed suicide in New York. There were things going on, right?
Right.
So there were things going on. There was success. There was recognition. There was affirmation that she had won a prestigious award, and that carried on. And it was kind of just the chill of it. It was like the week before I watched her segment on, I think, E News or one of the evening entertainment weekly or something, and I watched her segment.
Right.
Right, so, full of energy, just seemingly just doing well. And so from that perspective, there probably were people in the studio with her. There are people, family members, right? You hear her mom talk. You just hear there were people around her who probably were cheerleaders. And so if you're a cheerleader consistently and this person still has this ideation, then that lets you know it's just not about being that person to give them a reason to live, right?
Okay.
It's a part of it. The main things I would say is just knowing, if some just really paying attention to those clues. So just like And even for that situation, she didn't all of a sudden stop doing the things she was doing. She was
Right.
still doing the things she was doing. So I was going to say that's one of the telltale signs of, somebody who's going into that space where their normal activities are shutting down a little bit. They're not interested in the things they used to do. But then also you hear these clues of like, what is the point of this all? I don't want to do this no more.
Right.
You just hear these clues of just like on a consistent basis. If you're hearing this,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I would say is just to be curious. Be
Okay.
curious about, so what does that mean? Are you thinking about harming yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you get that yes, right, well, are you having suicidal thoughts? Yes. Do you have a plan, right? If
Right.
that person has a plan, then it's important to know your local suicide hotlines and supports and resources.
Right.
So it's more so about trying to intervene right away if somebody's at that point and they get them the support they need, than trying to talk that person out of that mindset, because they're professional and supports who can come through and have steps and procedures to help support that person. But it's not just, oh, now you have this going on, your life was work. Yeah, that's good,
Right.
but you got to put more stuff to
But you
it
got to
too,
put more stuff to it. Right. Right.
yeah,
And
which
that's
is
yeah. And
understanding
that's
where
and
they
that's
are with the process.
that's one of the tools. Yeah. To talk and about what it is you have going on, the reason for living. But at the same time, like you said, it's important that we ask that question. If we think,
Mm-hmm.
are you thinking about committing suicide? And people will think that, okay, I can't ask them that. That'll push them over the edge. No, you need to
Mm-hmm.
ask, are you thinking about committing suicide? And if you are, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? Because guess what? If they have a plan, they're real close
They're
to
there.
actually executing
Right.
their plan. So
Right.
so yeah, it's not you're not invading their space. It's not you're not doing anything that's going to deteriorate from the relationship. You just need to make sure that this person, if you're seeing any signs or hearing any signs, they're giving stuff away, they're changing things, they're not showing up, they're doing stuff different. You got to make sure that you ask the right questions. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
questions is, are you thinking about committing suicide? That's not
Right.
going. Don't think that's offensive to them. It needs to be
Right.
asked. Tanya, you were
Right.
going to say something?
Can I add something to that? And I really like what the National Alliance of Mental Illness and the Suicide Prevention line have, the 5 steps of how you can help someone. And so the first one is asking. And asking is not putting anything in their mind. Are you
Right.
thinking about suicide? But the piece with asking, and this is the next step, is just to listen, empathic listening, and listening to support, not listening to get them to change. I would also say that it's important to be there, be present, in active listening, and finding out what's happening with them. Keep them safe. And one of the things I think it's important to understand is keeping them safe. Do they have access to means, any firearms, medications? So we need to make sure that we keep them safe. And then we also need to help them connect. So helping them with connecting with support services, and contacting the suicide prevention line, or the texting the crisis line. So knowing some of those signs, as Tim talking about, for the person that we're talking about, she had so much going on, but we also have to understand signs. And if people are talking about death or killing themselves, if there's changes in their sleep and mood and energy, if they are, have access to the means, as I said, they're feeling, like they're a burden to someone else. So we
Right.
have to understand some of those warning signs, and asking them and being there and listening and supporting them and connecting them is going to be very helpful.
Nice. Good information. What's up, Rodney Lewis? Stu, hey, how you doing? Bonnie Mills, good to see you today. Jesus, I'm going to put your comment up. Sister Sally, how are you? God bless you. We're going to move into this topic because look at this comment. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see that? Good morning, Pastor. What a great topic. I too suffered from depression, and I almost committed suicide. That I want to move into that portion of that topic right now, and that's depression, because I believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not you guys. But, pastoring and dealing with people and having had some training, depression in terms of deep depression happens in stages. Depression it turns into depression, but there's disappointment, and the disappointment turns into discouragement, and then the discouragement turns into you're dismayed and you begin to be disillusioned, and then it turns into depression. Are there stages that take place first before people before we get to that point of deep depression? And what are some of the stages, and what can we do about them? What are the signs to recognize in terms of this depression for ourselves as well as for other people? Tim, you take that one.
So I would say there's a couple of things. I would say the first thing is just noticing the changes in somebody's daily activity, right? So if you notice a change in a loved one's or a friend's daily activity as far as their engagement and their disengagement, right? So that can be a sign. I wouldn't say there is one linear approach, right, and process, because depression is it chemically there's a chemical issue with our brains when it comes to depression. So it's not just like this thing just cascaded. It can be that way, but there's people who suffer from depression from childhood. And so you really is just understanding that depression sits within this sense of a despair, loneliness, just like feeling overwhelmed, right? So we say overwhelmed sometimes with anxiety, but overwhelmingness with living life in life circumstances where we just are so overwhelmed, we shut down, right? And nothing that seems good to everybody else seems good to me. Even when I do the thing everybody else does, I get no satisfaction of it.
Wow.
There's just no connection to joy. The other thing I want to talk about is, which is something I really talk to my clients about, is like depression, anxiety, sadness. They're all components of emotions and moods, right? So when you're sitting in a mood, we all go through those different emotions, from happiness to joy, excitement to sadness. Even being angry. It's healthy to experience all of our moods.
Right.
It's not realistic to say I'm going to be happy all the time, right? It is healthy to experience moods. Within that, though, is the ability to come out of a sad mood and go into just a regular, just state of being, or they go into happiness. The issue is when you sit in one mood, as far as a negative mood, and you don't feel like you can get out of it. That's the telltale signs, I would say. If you're sitting in that sadness, it just grows deeper and wider. Your family connections don't really get you that joy and excitement anymore. If you're in a relationship, you just don't feel the love anymore. You can feel the love for the other sometimes,
Right.
but you don't feel love for yourself. You don't feel like you're valuable to the other person. You don't feel like you're valuable to the work you do. You just don't get satisfaction. So that's where, when you're sitting in that space of that negative emotion and can't get out of it, that's when you're starting to look at, okay, these are depressive signs, and I want to check in with this person if I'm seeing these things.
And looking at somebody, if you recognize that and you're looking at them or you're relating to them, saying snap out of it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't snap out of it.
Just doesn't,
No, it's
because they've tried.
Right.
They've tried. So
Yeah.
So the one thing to if anything, and I would just say this, if anything, is just to it's not great always to assume, but just assume that this person doesn't want to be in this state of mind, and that they tried, but they just can't really seem to, quote unquote, snap out of it.
Wow, that's good stuff. Look, I told y'all, listen, you ask questions, you can get some free guidance here with these two powerhouses. It's enlightening. My daughter is on. She said, "Hey, Dad, how you doing, Taylor?" She's down in Florida. She's saying it's a great topic. Stuart Winrow says, "I think more people suffer from depression than we think." That's right. But to rise to the suicidal tendencies are very hard to see. That's why topics like this should be talked about more. You're right. And we need to talk more about these kind of topics, or these topics, not these kind of topics, but these specific topics in the Black community, because we have always carried this stigma about, if you need to go talk to a therapist, if you need to go talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, there's something wrong with you, meaning you're weak, you're frail, you're not be tough, suck it up, and just deal with it. Well, I can't deal with it. Obviously, I can't deal with it because that's why I'm in the mental state, which is not a healthy mental state that I'm in. So I need help. I need help. And thank God we have people in this arena who are mental health experts who look like us. Both these people on the screen, y'all, they look like me, particularly that one over there. I mean, over there. He really looks like me. So it's good. And that was one of the reasons why I connected with Tim, was because when I got a chance to see him and talk to him, we got things in common. We automatically connected, and it's good. Now I'm open to share some of the areas that needed to be shared so he can really do an analysis on what's going on in my life and help me move in the right direction. So many people, when they talk to their therapist, they don't tell their therapist everything. Not that you need to tell them everything, but you need to tell them everything so that they know what it is you're dealing with emotionally and psychologically. So this is great. This is, like I said, this is my Super Bowl team I put together. In relationships, now the Bible says that we're supposed to love our neighbors. That's how we're supposed to deal with one another. We're supposed to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. That's the directive, because love covers the law. You know, we don't go by the 10 commandments anymore, but if we will love one another the way Christ loved us, then that covers everything in the law. If I love you, then I won't covet your stuff. If I love you, then I won't kill you. If I love you, then I won't steal your stuff. Love covers it all. So if people don't love themselves the way they should love themselves, then how can I love somebody else? I hear people talking all the time about their relationships and how the relationships are not good, not sweet, not positive. They're jacked up, distorted. But I also hear those same people talking about themselves in ways that are negative. They don't like the way they look. They don't like the way how much weight they have. They don't like the way this is on them. They don't like this about themselves. If I'm not loving myself right and relating to myself right, then how can my relationships be positive and be productive and be the way the Lord wants them to be or form them to be? Tell us about the importance of self-love, Taunya.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pick up where you left off, because when we talk about the Lord wants us to love ourselves, we also have to really understand where that brokenness came from. So if we go into the beginning, in terms of what happened with Adam and Eve, and that broken relationship with self and that broken relationship with others, and that broken relationship with self caused shame, it caused guilt, started questioning. And so we have to deal with that brokenness within ourselves to also deal with the brokenness in relationships. And so it really, and I want to reiterate something that Tim said. We all have emotions, and it's okay to own your emotions. And oftentimes in a relation breakup, something's going on at the job, somebody's in a crisis, the first thing is to personalize it and start criticizing self and downing self and doubting self. And instead of doing that, it's important to love yourself. And so saying affirmations, saying positive things, reframing what you're thinking in your mind about yourself, and not allowing those external situations to control how you feel about yourself internally. And so where you have control over is not what's happening externally, but you have control over how you think to yourself.
Right.
One of the books that I like is The Carpenter by John Gordon. And one of the things he says in there, and this is about reframing those statements, we have to talk to ourselves more than we listen to ourselves. Because when we listen to ourselves, we hear all the doubt. We hear all the criticism. We hear all the negative. But if we talk to ourselves and speak positive. And I would challenge people, try that for 30 to 40 days. Form a new habit. Because when you form a new habit, it becomes habitual. So does it take work? Absolutely. When we're trying to restore relationship with ourselves, it does take work.
Wow. And there's power, the power of life and death in our tongues. Speak those things that are not, as though they already are. So stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. Who do we hear talk more than anybody else? We hear ourselves talk more than anybody else. So talk to you. Oh my gosh, maybe that's what I've been doing. You know what? I go around the house. It's amazing you said that, because I catch myself going around the house talking out loud to myself. I don't do it when my wife is around, but I catch myself. No, seriously, I catch myself talking scenarios out loud, talking about situations. Some of the situations, Tim, that you and I have talked about that's going on in my life, I find myself talking out loud to myself, hashing it out, going through it, rationalizing it, and making sense of it. And it just happens. It just happens. So yeah, talk to yourself and stop listening to yourself. Boy, that's a sermon right there. I gotta take a note of that. I'm gonna preach that, Taunya. That's a sneaker preach right there. That's a sneaker preach. It is. Tim, you want to add something to self-love? You have to see yourself right and treat yourself right. I mean, the Bible says, treat your neighbor as you treat yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And for the most part, we have self-preservation. We love ourselves. We groom ourselves. We take care of ourselves. We do for ourselves. We're concerned about our own protection and our own care. And that's how we're supposed to have that same degree of care and protection and preservation for our neighbor. But if I'm trashing myself, I'm downing myself, if I don't feel good about myself, then how can my relationships be positive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Tinsley, yeah.
She rough, ain't she, Doc? She rough, boy. She rough, boy.
One thing I will add to it, and there's not much needed to be added to it, but the one thing I will add to it is, while talking to yourself more than you listen to yourself, also understanding the energy of the company that you keep, right? So
nice.
when I talk about that, I'm talking about relationships in my life, right? What are people saying to me? And I'll give this quick example. I look at this thing of like, we're football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
NFL, you're a franchise, right? So if my championship, if my ultimate goal is the best quality of life and a healthy quality of life, who in my life is helping me get to that championship? Nice. Are people sabotaging internally? And not to like talk about the headlines now with internal sabotaging of a goal to win, but are people in my life helping me win that championship? Are people in my life supporting me, cheering me on, helping me figure out how to get through situations? Or are those people honestly trying to deter me, trying to stomp me down when they talk to me? What are they saying? Right? So that's a part of it too, because ears are for listening. So what am I listening to? Mm-hmm. What kind of am I depositing in myself that confirms and agrees with these positive things I'm saying about myself? So if I start saying positive things, if I start talking positive things like, yo, Tim, you did that, man.
Right,
you did that.
Yeah.
And then my wife is like, you ain't do nothing. You ain't not. I'm like, whoa, nah, that don't match, right?
Right.
You're not on my team to help me win the championship. My wife doesn't do that. She's my biggest cheerleader. But I'm saying like the information we're receiving as well has an impact. So what are we listening to? Are we listening to words of affirmation? Are we listening to inspirational speeches? Are we reading inspirational things? Are we listening to death, despair, and deprecation? Right? What are we taking in? Because that's a part of it too. Where we can redirect our energy, where that internal conversation as far as like positivity aligns with the external noise, then we doing something. Because then there's agreement, there's alignment, right?
Right.
So there's alignment with, what I'm hearing. It's positive, it's encouraging. Not saying you're the greatest since everything, since sliced bread, but like, listen, it's okay where you're at because you're ambitious. You got this. You can do this, right? You're going to be successful. You're going to reach the next level. I need people in my life telling me that. I have that. Thankfully, blessed, praise God, I have that. I have people who support me when I'm doubting myself. Like, you don't doubt yourself. Look what you did. They'll bring evidence into it. Look what you've accomplished.
Right. That's good. Do
it again. Work hard, do it again. That's okay.
Good. Yeah.
So that part of it too is just around making sure you have people in your life who really encourage you and support you, and you do the same for them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right. But just surrounding yourself with the type of energy will also allow that conversation to be even stronger.
Yeah. And when you lift someone else up, it lifts you. When you lift them, it lifts you, like you're saying. So it's reciprocal. And yeah, don't receive all that negativity. You got to be like rubber. It's got to bounce off. Rubber, your glue. What you say bounces off me sticks on you. That's old school right there. So listen, Bonnie Mills, I want to put this up. Bonnie Mills says, sometimes you're just tired.
Yeah.
Real tired. Sometimes you're just, and Sister Mills, you're right. Sometimes you're just tired. And when you get tired like that, you're vulnerable emotionally and mentally and psychologically to all this negativity. Boy, that put all those T's together. But you're vulnerable to this. So what do we do when we're trying to deal with life? And Taylor, I see you. My daughter says that was deep. And Vanetta, Alex, I see you too. She said, this is powerful. Kiki, she says, good afternoon. I see you, Kiki. Thanks for being with us. What do you suggest that we do? Because I get tired sometimes too. For me, when I get tired, it's very far and few in between. When I get tired, I just take a day and do nothing. I take a day where I lay if I can't lay in the bed all day, but I do nothing. I don't brush my teeth. I don't wash. Whatever pajamas I got on, I lay around all day and do nothing so I can recharge my battery and get refreshed, renewed, restored, and revived. But not everybody does that. Not everybody can recognize that you're at the end of your battery life and you're about to pass out, you're about to drop off, you need to recharge. What do you suggest we do with that, Taunya?
First of all, going back to what Tim said, own your feelings. You have a right to be tired. Give
Yes.
yourself permission to be tired. Just don't get stuck in it. And that's the key, is not getting stuck. So own it, give yourself permission, and then work on giving yourself permission. And I'm a believer, just like you said, give yourself a day. So if you say, you know what, I'm giving myself a day just to lay around and be tired. And let me explain, you have a right to be tired. You have a right to be tired of the pandemic. You have a right to be tired of social injustices. You have a right to be tired with inflation going up, and every time you go to the grocery store, you're paying more.
Wow.
You have a right to be tired in relationships. But if I bring in that spiritual and Christian perspective, when we're talking about restoring relationships with ourselves and restoring relationships with others, that's that brokenness. Jesus died on the cross for us so that we can have those restored relationships. He had to die in order for us to live.
Yes.
So now let me just say that to each of us. What patterns of behavior must die in your life in order for you to live? Because if you allow yourself to stay tired, are you really living a genuine, authentic life? So you have to be willing to change patterns of behavior and change how you're thinking and change how you are not taking advantage of support services. We're designed to be in relationships. It's okay to reach out. Let's break down those stigmas. Let's engage in help-seeking behaviors. So my question is, are you willing to do something different to get something new? What patterns of behavior must die in order for you to live? Give yourself permission, but don't get stuck, and change those behaviors. And know as you're changing, it's not going to be easy, but you're changing up. And you might have a relapse, but each relapse is going to be shorter and it's not going to be as painful, but know that you're changing upward.
Yeah, because every time you drop something, you go higher. Every time you turn something loose, you go higher. The space shuttle, every time it goes to the next atmosphere, something falls off. So the higher you go, something's got to drop off. And like you said, you got to change. If you want the results to be different, if you want things to be different, you have to do something different. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always gotten. Then you'll always be where you've always been. We are preaching on this show today. So yeah, Taylor says she's dropping gems. Yes, she's dropping gems right now. And Taylor's clapping. I'm gonna put Taylor on the comments right there. She's clapping. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Tim, did you want to add to that?
I mean, the only thing I would add is, if you tire your rest, right? And
Yeah.
so what does your rest look like, right? Is it rest, laying down, taking that day? Is your rest doing something that you enjoy, right? So if you have things that you enjoy that bring you energy and bring you life, when you're at that point and when you're tired, or you have people around you that build you up, then you lean into that. When you're tired, when they say when you're tired, get active, right? That's the opposite action or opposite emotion. When you're
Right.
tired, get active. It's one of the skills we use in dialectic behavior therapy. When I'm feeling one way, I do the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm tired, I get active. The activity is to rest, and then I engage in the things that bring me restoration. Once I rest, I need to restore. So,
Mm.
what in your life helps you to restore energy? What in your life helps you restore that positive mindset? What person in your life helps to build you up, to replenish? Right? You got to go back to the well.
Right.
Right? For me, my well is spiritual. Right?
Mm-hmm.
My well is getting that Bible, getting my prayer. That's my well. Right? Get around my loved ones, tell them I love them, hear them tell me they love me, and deposit that energy back into me. Whatever it might be, understanding that thing that when you do it, it gets you excited, it gets you restored. You lean into it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't
Mm-hmm.
run away from it. You make time for it. If it's something you got to make time for, you're active. You make time to do that thing, whatever it might be. Reading a book, going on a nature, whatever it might be. Get back into it to get yourself restored and replenished. So that was the only thing I would add to that.
Wow, that wasn't the only thing. That was a whole bunch. See, I look. This is nobody. Look, this is the best show that's happening all year so far this year on all the podcasts that have ever been posted this whole year. This is the best. Not mine. I'm talking about every podcast everywhere else. this
Mm.
this is awesome information. No, this is awesome information. And we only have. I knew we weren't going to get through a lot, but we only have 10 minutes. But this last 10 minutes, we want to deal with. We want to talk about. COVID-19, and I mean, because we're all in it, we're still in it, and people need to realize COVID-19 ain't going nowhere. Just like the flu hasn't gone anywhere, just like the chicken pox haven't gone anywhere, just like the measles, all that stuff is still around. It once some kind of disease surfaces, it doesn't disappear. We just have to do what we need to do to protect ourselves from it. But COVID-19 is something different that we've never seen before, and it really has had different impacts. I'm not going to say all negative because there have been some positive. People have had to make changes, have had to shift, have had to repurpose things in their life because of COVID. So it hasn't been all negative, but for a lot of people, it's been all negative. How has COVID-19, I'm going to drop it to Tim first, and then you can close us out, Taunya. How has COVID-19 affected people individually and in terms of their family, emotionally, psychologically, mentally?
I would say the first, when I'll speak to it from the beginning of the pandemic. The first thing that we saw in the beginning of the pandemic was when we totally shut down. You saw the need for mental health services really elevate, and that was because when you talk about that depression where you don't find enjoyment in things you used to do, well, COVID-19 put us in a situation where we couldn't access the things we used to do. So then we really just had to sit with ourselves, with our situations. If there were things that weren't going on, we ignored. We couldn't ignore those things anymore, right? With ourselves, with our family, with our partner, and so it just really elevated some of the negative things that were going on in our lives. So I would say that's the first thing that we dealt with in the beginning was just this sense of feeling that self-imposed imprisonment in our circumstance, right? So that was the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Then as the pandemic has gone on, has continued on, is the wear and tear. The wear and tear of up and down changing
Mm.
guidelines and restrictions, right? Travel restrictions. People can't travel anymore. People couldn't see their family members for months to a year on end.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things that we usually find joy in, we were literally not allowed to do. And so that spiked depression, that spiked anxiety, that spiked the fear of the unknown. One of the biggest fears I would say we have is not being able to know what's going to happen next, right? When I know what's going to happen next, I can prepare, I can mentally be safe. When I
Right.
don't know what's going to happen next, I'm leaving things up to chance, and there's risk in chance, and I might not like risk.
Mm.
And so that's what the pandemic has done and like you said, Irvin, we don't this thing is not going anywhere. It might temper down to a flu like level.
Right.
I was as you were talking, my wife's a principal and she's got to cover classes, and her kids are reading on epidemics and pandemics, different diseases. So just imagine when the Spanish flu was, I think it was the 1900s when the Spanish flu hit, they used to ship people to an island and say, y'all go over there. And y'all stay on that
Yeah.
island,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I say that to say each generation has gone through their
Right.
sense of some
Right.
type of viral epidemic or disease, and we are in ours now. And thankfully we've been able to, our scientists and our medical professionals have been able to quickly come up with some solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing is really not going anywhere. It's just about now, just the feeling like the end's in sight, but every time you get close to the end, it snatches away.
Mm.
That's got to be hard for us. That's
Right.
hard for me. That's
Right.
hard. Just
Right.
because well, the rates are going down, we get excited, but boom, no, it's not. It's another variant.
Yeah.
So that, I would say those are some of the anxiety and the depression and the fear of the unknown are some of the ways I would say COVID has, especially with some of the clients I work with. That's the ways it really impacted them.
Is it, and also I think there's a measure of, I'm not sure everybody's aware of the fact, and I could be wrong, that things are they're not going to be the way they used to be, because the COVID has changed it. It's been different. Yes, we've had other pandemics, but it's been different for us for multiple reasons, I'm sure. But there are so many people who are talking about and wishing and thinking about, okay, when we get back to normal. No, this is a new normal. It's not ever in any area, any arena. It's not going to, and I speak specifically about the church, because it's just not going to be the same ever again. So we have to adjust, we have to adapt, and we have to overcome the situation the best way we know how, but not thinking and anticipating things going back to the way they used to be, because that's not ever going to happen. Taunya?
It's interesting, as I'm looking at the three of us, we're in middle adulthood. And when I think about this pandemic, we cannot leave out the children and the adolescents and the young adults, as well as the older adults. And how the pandemic has affected people across the lifespan is very different. Mm-hmm. And we have to think about children maybe not being able to articulate and put into words how they're feeling. So their feelings might come out in their behaviors. And we also have to know that mind, body, and spirit is connected. So if something's going on emotionally, like Tim was talking, the depression and the anxiety, that's going to impact physically. So we've had more physical illnesses because of what's been going on. And then people questioning, why are we going through this? What just trying to understand from their faith and what's happening. And so when I think about what's happening with this pandemic, it's impacting people across a lifespan and impacting them differently, but also just impacting their emotional health, their mental health, their physical health, and their spiritual health. And when the pandemic started, I kind of took that stance that people are in a crisis, and crisis could be dangerous, but it cannot be an opportunity for growth. For those that are experiencing grief and loss, grief in the change of their lifestyle, grieving how they used to do things, we have to be patient, and we have to help people to understand. We know there's no timeline on grief. So we also have to understand that this grief process with these changes can last, and that grief is going to be like a wave in the ocean coming and slapping you in your face, or it's just wading in the water. But being patient with people as they grieve the changes that has come upon from the pandemic.
Right. Listen, I want to put this comment up here. Sister Mills says, y'all, thank you for letting me know that it's okay to be tired. Wow. So we can be tired and think that that's wrong, or there's something wrong with us if we're tired. No, it's okay to be tired. It's a part of what happens in life. We grind, we go, we move, we do, and we get tired, particularly as we get older. We get tired. And Tanya, you said something about us being all the same age. No, I'm older than both of y'all. I got both of y'all by several years, almost double digit years. So
I don't think so.
so we won't talk about age right now.
Nah.
Listen, we're at an hour, but I don't care. We're going to talk just a little bit more, because we're getting really, really good. Richard says, thanks, Dr. Tinsley and Dr. Massaquoi, for this expert commentary on these topics. Stuart says, great point. I don't know which point it was, but they all been great. My mom says, very powerful show. Needed much with the hand claps. That didn't come up yet. Okay, my computer's acting like it doesn't have any sense. Boy, this modern technology, there it is. Modern technology is awesome. So one more topic, and we're going to close out. And those of you listen, if you're listening now, or if you're listening to this show, to this podcast after it's been posted, put in the comments whether you need to hear more or not, or whether you want to hear more or not, and we can always bring these two back on later on. You know, whether it's March or April. They're willing. They're good people. They don't charge me for being on, so so we'll have them back if need be. But when I was sending out the invitations for the two of you to be on the show, I asked Taunya if there were some topics that she specifically wanted to talk about. And I sent you that list, Tim. And Tim said, well, we going to cover all of this? But there was are you there, Taunya? Okay, there you go. You froze for a minute.
Yes.
But you wrote something down, or you said something to me that I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it sounds like it needs to be talked about. It's called, you said, race-based traumatic stress. Race-based traumatic stress. And Tim obviously knows what that is, because he's like, yeah. And it probably applies to me. So talk about that, because most of the watchers who are watching, most of my followers are African Americans. There's no shame in that. But there is something that exists in terms of traumatic stress that is related to the race that we're a part of, being Black people. Talk about that.
Yeah, so there's some researchers at Columbia University who have been doing more research. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you. You're frozen there just a little bit.
Oh, okay. Researchers at Columbia who've done research on race-based traumatic stress and taking the same concepts of post-traumatic stress and applying it based on systematic oppression, discrimination, microaggressions, and they have found that this oppression, discrimination, prejudice can impact a person emotionally, and so can experience symptoms very similar to post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so one of the things we have to understand is that these race-based issues, these social injustices, can take a toll on a person emotionally and mentally. And so it's really important to have that support in dealing with these social injustices, because race-based traumatic stress and PTSD can last for years. But one of the things I want to mention about us as
She froze.
We lost Dr. Tinsley.
You still there, Doc? Yeah, she froze. You want to pick up where she left? She'll probably straighten it out. She was on her phone.
I mean,
there she goes. There she goes. She's back. You back?
Okay, yeah, and that we as a people of color experience post-traumatic growth. So we have, since slavery, since emancipation, since the civil rights, we have grown from this. So we don't have to get stuck in the trauma piece, but also recognize that we have a history of growing from trauma that we have experienced.
Nice. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He ain't never failed me yet. Well, I'm gonna find a way to get that preaching in there. Tim, you want to add to that? We're gonna shut this thing down, but go ahead and add to that.
No, I mean, I would just say that this is very true. As far as race-based traumatic, stress. I just, speaking personally, I went through a situation as a teenager, and every time I talk about it, my voice shifts, and I notice that every time I talk about it, I get that little, kind of little thing in my throat, because I was pulled over by police officers in Allentown.
Your voice just shifted.
Yeah, it shifted again, right? So I was pulled over by police officers in Allentown, where I grew up, where I went to high school, and long story short, it's a very deep, intricate story, but a cop pulled a gun on me at 16 years old. And I just, I was able to thankfully get out of that situation alive and
Wow.
for the most part, not unscathed because I deal with the trauma of
Hmm.
seeing police behind me when I'm
Yeah.
just driving. And I just go through all the emotions. I relive those emotions again. I don't let them, I'm at the point where I'm able to breathe through. I'm at the point where I'm able to take myself through a sequence of, like, you're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Just be, you're fine. You have everything in order. All your stuff is in order. I don't even wrong. I check the speed limit. I'm in the speed limit, and I
Right.
just go through it, right? But that lives with me, and I just noticed, like, over the years, it's just how that I couldn't pinpoint it before I went to school and everything, but I was like, why is it always still bother? When I was in college, this still bothers me. Like, this happened like 3, 4 years ago when I was in undergrad at Michigan, and I just noticed it just still bothered me every time, and it was because it lives in my body, right? That
Right.
that
Right.
experience lives there. So when something similar might be occurring, it's gonna come up and trigger me. Right. So I say that to say that Dr. Tinsley is absolutely right. The
Hmm.
resiliency of it all is that I'm able to be comfortable. I have police friends, right? I've come to I have a cousin who's a captain in the Philadelphia Police Department, so
Hmm.
I don't have a blanket perception of all law enforcement are bad. At the same time, it's an experience that's never going to go away. And
Right.
so that's how we have to really start to process and manage these situations in which that we can't, we acknowledge it. Number one, we are aware of it. Awareness is really important, or else you'll just find yourself doing things out of your behaviors and not understanding how you're responding, not understanding why you're getting upset, why you're getting sad. When certain situations that are race based occur, the awareness of it all to
Hmm.
maintain your, because your health and your ability to maintain your health within all of those situations are very important. So I just like just I'm just encouraging and advocating for awareness. If you've dealt with situations like that before, please make sure you acknowledge it, get the support you need, so you can go through and be able to process and live the best quality of life you have, even with some of the situations we still have to deal with this day, which is, it's just astonishing we're still dealing with, but it is what it is. We're dealing with it.
Right.
And
Right.
we just continue living and we continue being great as we're supposed to be.
And now I have a picture of what the race based traumatic stress is because I am the same way. Now I haven't had an experience with police officers like you have, Tim, in my past, but I've been pulled over several times. And one, they didn't put a gun in my face, but they arrested me. I was moving. I had stuff in my car, and they arrested me for the wrong reason. And they eventually let me go, but they treated me. It was not nice. And then also with all of the other stuff going on in our country that is involving police officers and African Americans, black people, and it's being unjust what they do and how they treat those situations. So I feel the same way when I see a cop car behind me without its lights on. I'm getting stirred up. I
Mm-hmm.
get a lump in my throat. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking certain things, and God forbid he turn his lights on. Now I get, I'm got anxiety and heart palpitations and all that stuff, and it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't, because they're supposed to protect and serve. I shouldn't see them or emotionally interpret them as something negative and a threat, but I do, and it's not something. It's something that I cannot avoid. It's something that I cannot stop. It happens. Not that I don't remember the last time I was pulled over by a police officer, but it happens, and it has happened every time I've been pulled over by a police officer. And most of the time, there haven't been any times, just a few tickets, but most of the time, oh, how you doing? And they go. But I go through that whole thing just like
Mm-hmm.
you, and and that's that race-based traumatic stress. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
it's real, and it exists. Need to Jesus says need to surround ourselves with positive people for strength and love. Yes. Sister Sally says, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, please have them come back. Jesus says, thank you, Dr. Tinsley and Mr. Tim. Frozen time. All right, we're going to shut this thing down, y'all. We can talk about this stuff all day. Listen, thank you, Taunya, for being with us, Dr. Tinsley. How can people find you? I know you're on Facebook, and you want me to get on LinkedIn. I'm going to get on LinkedIn. I promise you. But how can people find you if they're looking for you?
They can Google my name and go to my website, which is transitionsaalp.com. Also on Facebook, Love and Basketball Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And on Instagram, Dr. TMT.
Dr. TMT. All right. Tim, how can the people find you if they're looking for you? So say somebody wants to train to be a therapist. I know you're shorthanded, both of you.
Oh yeah, if you want to train to be a therapist, if you're at that point where you're in a master's program, you're in the internship process, we are looking to really help develop the next group of therapists at the Ledipo Group. So you can check us out if you're looking for therapists, or if you're looking for some equity, diversity, inclusion work. Check us out at the Ledipo Group, www.theladipo.com. I host a podcast. We had Irving on a couple of weeks ago. Amazing episode. I still get amazing positive feedback about that experience that folks got to listen to Irving just share some of his life and things. So we have a podcast called the Mind Your Mentals podcast. Myself and Mal Davis, he's my co-host. You can check us out. All the episodes are on there. It's called www.mind MINDYA mentals mentals.com, and we just talk about mental health in the Black community. That's our priority. That's what we continue to push, and so we have these conversations with some amazing people, just having really awesome conversations around mental health in the Black community. So you can check that out and check out Irving's episodes. Amazing. It was awesome. Just positive feedback just about just the experience and just people didn't know
my crazy life. Yeah. Well, listen, we are. I'm not going to wear you guys out. Thank you so much for being with us today, being with me today, and sharing this just valuable, or I should say invaluable information. Just opening our ears and our eyes to we just scratched the surface of mental health, but thank you both. We are going to have you on again because I think this is something that it's very much needed, and we can get a little more deeper and expand the subjects and touch on a few more areas so people can be enlightened about the importance of mental health and some of the things or actions they can take or the steps they can take to secure their own mental health as well as their loved ones and those who are in relationship with them. So thank you both for being with me today here at the Fireplace. Y'all, this conversation was fire. This was fire today for real. So God bless you. I'll holler back at both of you today. At some point, I'll check back in with you just to, tell you thank you again. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk with you later. Bye, Taunya. Bye, Tim.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Tim.
Bye, Taunya. Nice to meet you.
Boy, that was great. That was great. Man, y'all, I hope you guys got all those nuggets. I see you on here, Hope and Bonnie. Stu, God bless you, man. Jesus, yes. Sister Sally. Vinny, good to see you, man. We froze in time. Mom, I know you were listening attentively. And Ricky Melton would love to hear more. He said, I'd love to hear more. Yeah, we're going to get it. Vanetta, thanks for being with us today. Yes, Bonnie Mills, thank you for being with us today. I said Stu, Sally. Taylor, are you still there, Taylor? I don't know if you're still watching, but thanks for coming on your daddy's podcast today, girl. Thank you. Sister Hope, come on, preacher. I guess that must have been the time when I was preaching. Shouldn't have been preaching, but can't help it with this stuff going on like that. That's good stuff. That was good stuff today. Kiki, are you still with us? Are you still with us, Kiki? Good to see you. Good afternoon to you too. Vanetta, yep, Vanetta. All right, that's everybody, I believe. We have 15 folk on this afternoon. That's absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Listen, don't forget, we're trying to touch out or reach out to those, our watchers, our supporters. And we're doing, and my stream deck's not working right now. So real talk, real people, real talk. We want you to send in your story to thefryerplace@gmail.com. You can email it and just leave it in an email. You can send it attached to a PDF or send it attached to a Word document. Tell us your story here at The Fryer Place, thefryerplace@gmail.com. We will read your story. We will select certain people to come on and be a part of the show. You can tell your story here at The Fryer Place the last Friday of every month. That's when we want to do this. Real people, real talk. Real people, real talk. Don't forget to go purchase merch, The Fryer Place merchandise at millions.co/Irving-Fryer-football. That's millions.co/Irving-Fryer-football. My overlays are not working right now, so I would put it up on the screen, but it's not working. You can get your merch. Yeah, get your merch from The Fryer Place. 50 cents on every dollar is donated to the nonprofit organization entitled A Need We Feed. A Need We Feed feeds over 1,000 people a week. Hot meals, veterans, homeless, yes, and the elderly, seniors. So it's a great cause. We can do our part. Go millions.co/Irving-Fryer-football. Purchase some merch, the Fireplace merch, and do your part to help feed those who are in need. That's it for today. Listen, I want to thank Lou Rogers, Vision Audio Visual, for these for the introduction and the videography that he does for us. I want to thank Alicia Way for these dope overlays. Y'all see them moving constantly. The Fireplace is bouncing in and out. That's great. We're going to thank Millions for providing us with the merch. Millions.com, millions.co. I'm sorry. It's not .com. It's millions.co. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place, same purpose. Y'all, the conversation today was fire. That's what happens here at the Fryer Place. Thank you, Tim Massaquoi. Thank you, Dr. Taunya Tinsley, for being with us on today. Y'all, we'll see you next week, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Please take care of yourself. Mask up. Socially distance. Wash your hands. Keep yourself and your family members safe. COVID-19 ain't going nowhere. We have to do what we have to do to protect ourselves. God bless you. See you next week.